The tabletop takeaway.
Game mechanics on display.
Three designers share the stage.
Pick a genre and we'll play.
The tabletop takeaway.
Welcome back to the Tabletop Takeaway. This is our bonus episode on racing games. I'm Trevor Muller-Hagel.
I'm Ananda.
I'm Charlie McCarran.
All right, so we've covered a few different games over this series, ranging from Heat, Pedal to the Metal, Robo Rally, Transformers, and last but not least, of course, is...
Thunder Road Vendetta.
Perfect, thank you, Charlie.
It's
I'm like, Mad Max. Nope, that's not the one.
Nope.
Let's not call it that.
Yep.
That's not exactly not what it is. Just like Nemesis is definitely not aliens.
Yep.
So, racing is a really fascinating thing to pursue as a game, and I think we discovered in the last episode that we were pursuing how we can find mechanics that make racing feel like racing.
Yeah.
Right? So we're diving into the theme more than a mechanic specifically. But we're finding the mechanics that help drive the engine of our cars.
Yeah.
In a racing game.
Yeah. So I guess we started talking a little bit last time about some mechanics that go well with racing as a theme and are maybe somewhat defining of the genre. I think a big one is catch-up mechanics.
And not mustard mechanics. I wanted to make that joke so many times, but I held back. But I held back until now.
Thank you.
So here we are. We can move on.
But yeah, so like in the games that we looked at, Heat has, of course, slipstreams. There's a bonus for last place. Robo Rally Transformers.
You're not in the bumping of or like the pushing around. You're able to catch up to people.
Yeah, there was also one of the upgrades that I drew that I was very happy about. Let me teleport to a checkpoint that someone else had got to already.
My god!
Yeah,
now
I was holding that in reserve.
Oh.
But,
and I had the opposite of that.
That's the
kind
bullet
of,
in
which
Mario
was,
Kart.
Yeah, move the checkpoint to somewhere else, a few spaces away, which everyone hated. But
I actually
thought it
loved
was
that.
hilarious.
I thought that was great because he got closer to me.
Yeah.
I think the main one is if you're a bit out of sync because you're behind, other people are going to get sort of all clogged up at the at the checkpoint, and that'll give you a chance to catch up to them.
Well, Robo Rally also has a little bit of a bumping mechanic in it too, but you get to choose how you bump. So if you end up on the space of someone else, you can kind of choose where you're going to go, right? Or is that just my character?
That must have been your character.
That might have been my
I
character. I think I had a special ability where I could use people as ramps.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Which was really fun.
Yeah. And then in Thunder Road, the catch-up mechanic is kind of similar to Cosmic Encounter in a way in that attention from other players will prevent you from getting too far ahead. Like the one motorcycle that everyone
shot
just
off.
mobbed with helicopters.
Yep. Yeah, he had a good combination of things happen for that first motorcycle, and then we spent all of our dice trying to kill him.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it also has that thing where dice from dead cars can be used for other cars to coast.
I feel like one overarching thing that's good to have in a race game is not knowing exactly what your opponents are going to do is pretty helpful. So, like, obviously, Robo Rally, we didn't see what the programs were going to be until they're revealed. Heat, you don't know how far they're going to try to go. Thunder Road, it's just not impossible to predict where your cars are going to end up.
Also, most of their movement is going to be bumping.
Yeah, but I'm trying to imagine a race game. Maybe there's some out there where it's more open information about, like, okay, I'm going to move here, then I know they're going to move here. But
like perfect information strategy racing game? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a thought.
I think I might amend that a little bit to say that it's not just not knowing what your opponents are going to do, but I think part of it is caring a lot about what your opponents are going to do and trying to guess at what it is.
Yeah.
Because like in Heat, it matters a huge amount because you can slipstream if you guess what they're going to do.
Right.
In Robo Rally, if you can guess what they're going to do, you can avoid your plans being disrupted by them. And in Thunder Road, it's kind of hard to know what they're going to do, but if you can guess who they're going to go after, you can
Right.
try to not be that person.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, which is really just to say that they need to be interactive.
Yeah.
And I think some level of making decisions or being presented with tools and then not being able to change those tools for a minute. So you've created your hand, your dice pool, whatever it is, and that's it for a little while, right? And so you can strategize with what you have, but you're not like constantly changing it up, constantly moving things, getting new hands. I really like that you can, between both programming and with like the dice placement of Thunder Road, you can really you have some options, but you're not unlimitedly available to do things. And there's not a lot of hidden information in Thunder Road, other than how things are revealed, and the board has hidden information.
Yeah.
And I think actually that's what creates a lot of tension for me in that game is like those hazards I at first thought weren't going to be too bad, and then they got real bad real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then being able to manipulate hazards, like both Charlie and Ananda. Ananda could create hazards, and Charlie could eat them and poop them out.
Yep. So, yeah, I feel like, I'm wondering now, like, are we thinking too narrowly about racing games? Like, we're thinking, what I wonder about is, like, okay, thinking about video game racing games.
Sure.
Tests a totally different skill, as often, like, video games and board
yeah.
games do, but
Those are
other
dexterity
games, there might be more overlap. But, like,
Yeah, that's a
racing
good
video
point.
games are pretty much purely about your physical skill. There's some strategy on paths you take or whatever, when to use weapons or whatever. But yeah, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, simulating racing in like a console environment, like with a PlayStation or an Xbox or something, is a very different experience from playing a board game that's based on racing. I don't know how easy it would be to have a dexterity-based racing game on the tabletop world.
Isn't
Flicking.
pitch cars or
Yeah,
there's a game called
Yeah, you're flicking them and there's ramps and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, so I haven't played it either. But yeah, it sounds like it would be a really difficult space to design in, and there wouldn't be a lot of folks doing that because it is, like, when you're thinking about it from a strategic standpoint, you want to be focused on the car or the engine, like we were talking about with Heat, or on your weapons or hit points, like with Thunder Road. So you're actually focusing on your vehicle a lot more than on the road and how you're reacting to the road.
It just struck me, is golf a racing game?
The game of normal golf,
Yes.
with hitting balls into holes. In some ways, I think because you have how much you hit above and below par. Not to talk about golf too much.
Well, golf is the biggest parallel for what we're
Yeah.
doing in the board games, almost.
Yeah, because like
one move at a time, getting closer and closer. How many turns does it take you to get?
to each checkpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Golf being totally
Golf is Robo
non-interactive,
Rally.
though,
Got it.
with
Golf is
others.
Robo Rally.
Perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. No notes.
Yeah.
Love it.
I got a golf board game long ago. Never really played it, but I'm curious if it would have been interactive at all with other players, or if it's just like, no, just do your best.
Yeah, so if you could combine golf with dexterity, with interaction, there it is. There's a game. Perfect.
What other thing I've noticed about these games is racing games is it's quite good to have some situations where you want to go really fast, and other situations where going really fast is a bad idea.
Yeah.
If going fast is always better than going slow, then
Go fast.
It's a pretty bland game. But like in Heat, you've got corners. You have to slow down for the corners, and that's really interesting because like you want to slow down, but you want to stay in a high gear so you can speed up right after sometimes, or use them to get rid of heat by
Right.
going in lower gear. In Robo Rally, there are some hazards where you don't really want to go fast.
Or you want to go specific speed, like if you're getting a
Yes.
ramp and you don't want to go too far.
Yeah, I suppose mostly it's wanting to go at a specific speed.
Yeah.
In Robo Rally, because you really want to get to exactly the space you want to go. And then Thunder Road, you go too far ahead, the helicopters will shoot you down.
They will descend.
Yeah.
So maybe we could also take a step back and think about like what are other race games that we've played, or like it probably everyone's first racing game they played was like Trouble or Sorry as a kid. You know, you are racing around the board in these roll and move games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, Sorry is an interesting one because much like I guess I remember playing Sorry as a kid, and one of the things back then that struck me about it versus like Monopoly or Candyland was that it felt way better in that if I remember correctly, the way it works in Sorry is you draw a card, and then you can use that. I think you can use that to move one piece, or you can split it between. Or no, some of them you can split.
Man. It's been too long for me to remember.
I thought it
how
was just
works.
rolling dice, but
I thought Sorry is drawing cards. Am I misremembering? What am I thinking of?
I played Trouble more, the Pop-O-Matic.
I remember
so
the
maybe
pop.
I'm thinking of that.
I think Sorry is cards, and some of them have special effects.
Sure.
But just the ability to use the card on any of your pieces instead of having to use it on one piece.
Kind of like Thunder Road.
Yeah.
Like Thunder Road, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a huge improvement to random movement.
Right.
Because now you have
Yeah.
the choice of which piece you move. And we talked about that a little bit on Thunder Road, but
And actually, I'll give a throwback to one of the oldest games, if not the oldest game that we can track, is the game of And you use these, actually they're D4 shapes, but they're really only a coin flip dice. And you throw, I don't know, maybe 4 of them and see how many spaces you move based on that. So maximum 4, minimum 0. And the way that one works, I actually think is more interesting than Sorry or Trouble or what. Well,
Should we
actually,
do a prehistoric game series?
prehistoric. It is actually close to Trouble, in that you have like 7 pieces you can move choose between. They all start at the beginning, but there's like the board kind of goes in a little bit of a line there's one line in the middle that you can both race on, and if you hit someone else, you knock them out. But you also sort of have your own zone that you're
own track.
moving in towards the center on.
Okay.
You just got to look at it. It's a strange board shape.
Gotcha.
But yeah, was more strategy than I thought there would be for a game that's like 4,000 years old.
Yeah, they didn't have Monopoly then. How did they get to that point?
Yeah. So people like racing games.
People
It's
do
a
like racing
human
games.
instinct.
I will say, did I already say this? I don't like racing video games.
Oh,
I was actually big
Let's
into
see.
racing video games for a hot minute when I was younger.
okay.
I
What's your hot take on them?
I don't know. I could never get into them. I mean, I guess I kind of enjoyed Lego Racers 2, but that was mostly... Or not, Lego Racers 1. That was mostly because of the power-ups, which are pretty interesting in that game. But, like, Mario Kart never really appealed to me. I don't
Sorry,
know.
Nintendo.
I'm a Mario Kart fan, but
I know most
it's-
people like Mario Kart. I just don't.
It's okay. I
A
mean,
lot of people like Super Smash Brothers too. You know.
Yeah.
I do like Super Smash Brothers.
For me, like racing video games, and thinking about the ones I loved the most would be like Mario Kart, often because of the fun levels and fun like weapons.
Sure.
I loved San Francisco Rush because there's like all these hidden paths you could go on.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's one thing that I don't know. This is a bit of a tangent, but board games, if you could get that feeling of like, ooh, I discovered a secret area that I can race through, and I feel super clever because I found this path. But like racing board games, I don't know how you would do that exactly.
Have a secret path. It's interesting. You have to kind of borrow from other games to get there, I think. One of which I played was Descent 2, the second Descent game. They had different areas that you could accidentally discover by turning them over. So you'd have to kind of, I think, combine it with like Thunder Road hazard thing where you have unknown information on the board, and if you go over it, it actually is a benefit and gives you a shortcut, has you spit out somewhere else.
Sure.
Or have abstract space. And
Abstract space in racing games.
yeah, so like instead of having like, you know, a regular board that
track.
you move around, have different spaces that are connected to each other in ways that are maybe not immediately obvious. And then finding a shortcut is a matter of analyzing the connections to figure out which ones are
I
shortest.
would definitely need to see that because, man, is my brain exploding.
One of my favorite examples of a game with really cool abstract space is Homeworlds from the Looney Labs Ice House Pyramids. Either of you know Homeworlds?
Video game?
No. This is a board game.
Homeworld is a video game too, I think. But
This is a board game.
Yeah.
And the way that it's not a racing game, and
Okay.
the space is somewhat limited, but basically there are planets of 3 different sizes, and any 2 planets that are different sizes from each other are connected. So like a small planet, or maybe they're stars. I'll keep calling them. Actually, I think they are stars. But like you can move between a small star and a medium star, for example.
Okay.
But you can't move between 2 medium stars. And you each have a home system, which is a binary star. So like small, medium, or small, large.
Oh, okay.
So your home system is only connected to one type of star.
Sure.
Whereas stars are where, you know, the single star systems are connected to 2 types. So it's harder to get to the home systems than.
Oh, interesting.
It's a pretty cool abstract space system.
Space system.
That, yeah. So I'm just thinking not that exactly.
Right, but having this logic that would allow you to take a shortcut.
Right.
Because it logically works.
Right, and then it's not obvious where the shortcut is because it's not in physical space.
It's in hyperspace.
I played a game called, I think, just Wormholes, and that had that feeling a little bit, maybe, of, there's all these wormholes on the board, and you're trying to figure out the best path to get from one to the other, but the way, the ones you can warp to, I think, changes throughout the game, and you get more powerful in terms of like how many different wormholes you are able to get to throughout the game. It's not really a racing game either, but
But yeah, so it's interesting looking outside of racing games to see what you can draw in. My favorite game, like when I was younger, was actually just the original Gran Turismo game, or Gran Turismo. I actually don't know the pronunciation. And my favorite part was that you could upgrade your vehicles and like get new vehicles by winning races. And I loved that, and I was just obsessed with that. I would sit around a track for 500 laps, apparently, because those were the endless laps.
So maybe you would enjoy a legacy racing game.
At least 12-year-old Trevor would absolutely do that.
Yeah. Are there any legacy or campaign racing
man.
games? I don't know.
Well, and how would you want that to be? 'Cause the biggest creep you'd get then is if someone continues to win and get first place and get more money, they always win. So having good ketchup and mustard mechanics for that would be good to have.
Yeah. Maybe someday we'll talk about legacy games
If we can get to it.
Yeah, that is a huge design challenge. How do you keep the player in first from just taking it away?
Especially if it's a competitive game. Because I played Charterstone with my family, not to go on a complete tangent.
Hey,
but that was
that's
a
what
big
this
thing.
bonus episode's for.
Right? So you're able to upgrade your personal space because it's a worker placement game. And the more desirable you can make your space, the more people will use it, which will give you more access to more things, kind of. And because you cheaper access to those things too, I believe. So yeah, it's just a really interesting dynamic. But as it goes on, like there does seem to be a little bit of one person being stronger than another. But there's a lot of twists in the rules as well that can really kind of offset that and change who gets more powerful.
Yeah. That is a design problem that does also relate to racing games, I think. But this idea that, like, if you're doing well, you should be rewarded with fun stuff.
Yes.
But yet, if you're doing poorly and you're behind, how do you also need to catch up to them and also hopefully have fun stuff. But
which is when you introduce more chaos into the game, like racing games.
Yeah.
Having Thunder Road and all the bumping and all the thing, like
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess the take down the leader is the kind of a primary way to do that.
Which is often just the group
blue
strategy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mario Kart weapons, you get the best weapons if you're losing.
The bullet when you're losing, I think, is the best one because it just accelerates you to being like in the mix again. Mm-hmm. That's so great.
Yeah. What would you guys do for designing a racing game?
I would really want to play around with programming, I think. I know I talked about it a little bit in Robo Rally, but it's such an interesting space, but the biggest challenge being the time aspect for it, right? Especially a racing game, you kind of want to have more players potentially. Having like 2 players play a racing game doesn't necessarily feel great. It's like, well, someone's going to win between the 2 of us. It's like, well, if there's more chaos, more things going on, I really like that. But how do you have programming and more things going on, or more players interact well together? And maybe there's a space for simultaneous reveal with that. I know I tried to do that with my old Archmagus game. My first prototype of that was a programming game where you'd all reveal simultaneously. But the amount of analysis that went into after that and like figuring out what would actually happen in what order was a bit of a headache. So like finding a good smooth way to do that, I think might be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think, well, I guess first would be figuring out what the sub game is that's tied to moving around the board. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I imagine I guess start off with, okay, you need to go around a circuit some number of times. Take advantage of the loop hero effect, but then also much like in Heat, have some internal challenge that you're dealing with as you're going around the board. So I'm not sure what the internal challenge would be that you'd be focused on. But I think that would probably be key to figuring out the game.
Yeah. I was just thinking maybe what I would do is try to do a game where you're racing vertically upwards.
Oh.
And because I was thinking, how would you, like physically, maybe it gets harder and harder as you get higher and higher, and you're more likely to fall, which could have some funny moments.
Free climbing the Empire State Building.
Sure, yeah. Or like there's a phone game I played that was like you're constantly trying to jump and keep hitting boosts that boost you upwards, but it gets harder and harder as you get higher in the sky.
Sure.
But that's a very fun physical thing to do. And board game form, I don't know, but I like the idea. Maybe it could be a vertical board physically.
Oh,
too.
Man.
Maybe some dexterity element too. But I kind of like that idea where maybe it wouldn't feel as bad if you're on top and you're more likely to fall down as kind of a catch up or keep the leader in place. Versus like there's no reason you would go backwards in a race game if it's on land. Unless you really screwed up something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You put your bicycle into reverse on accident and you're backing up instead. Seems a little weird. But yeah, losing progress while you're climbing.
Yeah. Or like racing downwards in the sea thematically. What was the game? It's called something. So you're like diving down as a sub. I think it's a Oink game. That's like, you have to race down to the bottom.
Yeah, you're getting treasure.
Yeah,
right?
Get as many points as you can.
Yeah,
but you also have to make it all the way back to the surface
before something happens. I think like a round counter's up or something. Is that it?
Yeah, or it might be more organically, like maybe when a player gets to the top or something like that.
That might be it.
Anyways,
but yeah,
like Clank kind of too. I guess Clank. Is that a racing game? Sort of.
There is physical space. There's movement.
Yeah, it's some sort of combo-y thing.
I remember the first time I played Clank, I literally ducked into the underneath and grabbed the first artifact and ran back out. Like, 'cause I was afraid. I was so afraid of the dragon. I don't know why. It's like, oh my god, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Like I ran. I'm like, I still had like full health, like no treasures.
Yeah.
I definitely lost that one, by the way. So sometimes racing isn't about winning. Wait, well.
I wonder. I have a game called Wriggle, which is about worms in a garden.
Yes.
I wonder if I turned it into a racing game, what that would look like.
Ooh.
I like that idea. That might
Worms
be just
racing.
what that game needs, because I did feel when playtesting, like I liked the worms moving around, but
Yeah.
it didn't have a direction as much.
Yeah, yeah.
Why go this way versus the other? Slightly
Right.
different
Strategy,
resources.
Yeah.
That worm racing
Maybe.
would
Worm.
also be a hilarious twist.
It would be.
On the
I'd
theme.
want more chaos out of it, though, then, too. More randomization.
Right.
Because it feels goofy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Cool.
racing games.
Racing games.
What a
I think
time.
we can probably put it end to that episode. I was going to say put a pin in it. No,
Put
I
a
think
pin in
we're
it.
good.
Put on the brakes. We're about ready to go through the finish line.
Thank you,
and-
Trevor, for all the puns.
I'll be here all
during
week.
This series.
Yeah.
Yep. Do we want to make any announcements about any design challenges
Yes.
coming up? Or...
Yes. So I am going to get into this, I promise. And I will be having a design challenge for racing games. We'll go over some of our individual kind of takeaways. And those takeaways will lead kind of the challenge as well. So, keep tuned. If on our Discord, which I believe we have a link on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best way, Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can actually talk to us directly too, which is fun.
Yeah.
We like talking to people.
Yeah. And reach out, say hi.
Tell us about what you're working on, especially if it fits any of our episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
It's been fun seeing random people show up and say, like, what game they were inspired to do based on one of the topics we picked.
Oh, yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Well, and until next time, when we decide on, well, we do have an idea now of our
Yes.
next topic,
But
but
stay tuned.
yeah, stay tuned.
Hey, thanks for listening to The Tabletop Takeaway. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. So please tell your friends and visit our website at thetabletoptakeaway.com, where you can suggest games and mechanics for us to cover next on the show.